What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through a big 11-game Monday slate. The NBA calendar is unrelenting these days. We've got a bunch of big slates this week. Monday's big, Wednesday's big, Thursday's a big back-to-back slate with Friday being a mid-sized slate, and then Saturday is 13 games as the NBA takes off Sunday, Christmas Eve, as they usually do. In advance of the Monday Christmas Day slate. Mike, 11 games on the calendar. Last we saw, you were grinding through and battling through COVID. How are you? How are you feeling today?
Feeling pretty good, actually. Tested negative today, so I could actually leave my house. Maybe go to get a hike in tomorrow. But yeah, feeling pretty good today. It's been a grind, but yeah, ready to hopefully feel better this week and look forward to the holidays for sure.
All right, well, let's get to it from a game-by-game perspective. Let's start with Chicago and Philadelphia. On the Chicago side, still without Zach LaVine, of course. Alex Caruso is questionable here, and Torrey Craig is doubtful with right heel soreness. This is a Bulls team that doesn't have a ton of depth in that front court. Patrick Williams has been playing better of late. What are your notes on how the Bulls deal with the absence of Torrey Craig?
Yeah, we should see a pretty high minute ceiling and a Patrick Williams in the spot. We've seen his minutes be pretty solid as well. So I expect him to be out there. We'll see what they do with Alex Caruso, who can't seem to shake this little ankle thing that's been bothering him for feels like a month now. So we'll see what his minutes look like. Probably a little bit managed. Wouldn't be surprised if they bench him just to kind of ramp him up. And then we should see a little bit of Dalen Terry as a three, but we've seen some Julian Phillips in some spots. But Phillips has been filling in a little bit more as like a guard. So I think they would probably go more to Terry here in the spot, but not confident. We'll see Javon Carter in the rotation probably regardless, just as they would play a little bit smaller. Certainly tough to do that. That will depend a little bit on if certain big man's playing on the other side. And then also I should mention DeMar's minutes have been really, really high here. He's been playing a ton. And then if Caruso can't go, I'd assume he would also play quite a bit. And then Kobe White leading the NBA in total minutes this year. My guy's off to a really, really big start and keeps beating his PRA lines like every night.
Yeah, it's been really condensed minutes from the Bulls when they've been able to keep the games competitive. Tonight is a 9 or 10 point spread, depending on where the book was. We'll see how it moves based on Embiid's availability. Let's go there to the Philadelphia side, where the injury report started clean today, but as is the case with Philadelphia, sometimes they add on during the course of the day. First started with Marcus Morris, who is listed questionable with illness. We've talked about those same-day ads with illness, always a concerning tag. And then Joel Embiid, and the 12:30 injury report was updated to be included as questionable with left hamstring tightness. Been mentioning just the schedule is really, really condensed these days. So, there might be looking to get a spot for Embiid off. He's been playing basically like 30 minutes a night because he hasn't played in the fourth quarter in a bunch of games of late because they've just been a slew of soft opponents, Detroit twice, Charlotte, Washington, that they've been taking care of business early. What are your notes on Embiid tonight?
Yeah, hamstring, late ad, probably, game time at best. We're not going to find out until the Sixers tweet out their lineup, but definitely a good chance he would miss this one here. Don't have too much to go on. This is not something he's usually listed with, so definitely wouldn't be surprised to see him sit. If he did, we usually see them go to Marcus Morris as a starter. They might not have Morris, who you mentioned got added with a midday illness tag. That's usually a bad sign, so it should be a mix of Paul Reed and Mo Bamba taking on most of the center minutes if they're both out. And then obviously, way more usage going to Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, D'Anthony Melton to a lesser degree. And maybe even Batum actually shoots a little bit here.
On the Houston, let's move to Houston and Cleveland. On the Houston side of things, Tari Eason listed probable here. Second night of back-to-back for Houston. They're without Amen Thompson. Once again, what are your notes on the Rockets?
Yeah, we've seen Tari Eason's minutes be really, really strong here. They've been even running some huge lineups where Dylan would play more as a 2, which has been affecting Jalen Green's minutes a little bit. So probable tag on Tari. We've seen him get that Q tag in back-to-backs with this lower leg thing that he's been listed with really since the preseason when, the back-to-backs call for it. So should be good. Wouldn't expect his minutes to have any sort of cap on them, playing 30 yesterday because of some Jabari trouble. But again, they're playing really, really big lineups here, and it's taken minute ceiling off of Jalen Green. We've seen Fred VanVleet's minutes come back up. He hit a 36 a couple games ago because they went into the second unit again because Tari's playing so well. So yeah, I expect this team to be pretty much good to go without Amon Thompson, who they won't miss. Aaron Holiday's played well enough. I should mention Jayshawn Tate looked a little bit slow. We saw him pop up the injury report in the middle of last week. He looked like he was, really, really hurting. Surprised to see him not on there.
On to the Cleveland side of things, where they have just out tags listed, but important ones: Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Ty Jerome, all listed out. What do you expect from Cleveland in the absence of Garland and Mobley, which is going to be the new normal for them?
Yeah, we got that lineup we expected out of them with Max Strus playing at the 2, a lot of Donovan Mitchell. Actually, not a lot of handling, somewhat surprising. He played a little bit off ball when he wasn't out there with the starting lineup. That was interesting. But yeah, Okoro, Dean Wade, and Jared Allen will continue to get starts. Certainly see a decent bit of Karis LeVert, probably getting the upper 20s here. Craig Porter Jr. would get all the non-Donnies and some overlap. And then Tristan Thompson continues to get the non-Jared Allen minutes while George Niang also plays behind Wade. So, yeah, this rotation should be pretty solid. We'll see if they cut down Sam Merrill here again against a pretty big team. But, yeah, pretty straightforward. And then just huge minute ceiling out of Donovan Mitchell here. Hit 41, and we've seen pretty consistently that he's shown a lot. I think we got him at 38.5 minutes, which I think him and Fred VanVleet and Maxey and Luka are like the only guys that have touched that neighborhood for us projecting.
Yeah, no issue with the offense in game one of this. Of course, it was a favorable matchup against Atlanta on the second night of back-to-back. But that's the thing to watch here. As long as the offense can maneuver, and look, it was Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro who were hitting shots. So as long as the offense can function and they can generate points with this should be the starting lineup. The things would change is if you see a couple of games where they slump offensively, you might see Karis LeVert potentially for Isaac Okoro in those situations. But so far, so good for the Cavs. Clippers and Pacers side of things. On the Clippers, Bones Highland listed questionable here. Mason Plumlee, and Josh Primo, and Moussa Diabate all out. What do you notice on the Clippers, who've been playing really good basketball of late?
Yeah, just offense has been off the charts here. Let me pull up some stats from matchups here because they are cooking. And they're the number one offense in the last, what was the stat? I think this month. They're at 127 offensive rating, including 110.5 core. They've just been sun running here. So, yeah, I expect them to have a pretty great offense here. Kawhi, as Claff mentioned, he's like, 6 in minutes or something, just playing, or 13, somewhere up there. Not missing games, playing exceptional basketball right now here too. So, yeah, should see a pretty condensed rotation. We've seen Russ kind of go away. We did see a rotation tweak in the second unit as Amir Coffey took Kobe Brown's minutes. I think expect that would continue. Ty Lue basically talked about that. We saw Coffey get the start for Paul George, who missed the game from injury. Paul George, generally unaffected, also playing really, really well. Yeah, the Clippers are kind of back here, just really, really dangerous offense from them. So against a really, really bad defense, cover boy Kawhi Leonard today. Yeah, it's just completely cooking here. Yeah, actually that stat was since November 29th. So their last 9 games, they've been 127 offensive rating. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, and when Kawhi Leonard is playing like the Kawhi Leonard we saw a few years ago, which was arguably maybe the best player in the world, the most feared player during the playoffs, this team is going to be really, really tough to beat. And for the last 2 or 3 weeks, he has looked incredible. So good news for the Clippers. On the Indiana side of things, it's been tough sledding since the in-season tournament. Couple losses in a row here. Tyrese Halliburton questionable with a left knee bruise once again. Still without Andrew Nembhard and Jalen Smith. What are your notes on Halliburton in this Q tag?
Yeah, and we also got Miles Turner added just before we came on with bilateral hamstring. That's not good. So late tag hamstring. That's 2 late tag hamstrings for really good big men. I think that one or both are probably sitting. If he's out, that would mean Isaiah Jackson gets a huge minutes opportunity here. We'll see Oscar Tshiebwe probably get in behind him. We could see some Jarris Walker. Certainly against small ball lineup against the Clippers makes sense. We saw Jarris Walker carve out some minutes over the weekend with Halliburton out. So, yeah, I think Jarris would probably have a pretty good chance at minutes here. And really, really tough matchup, as we mentioned as well. So, and if Halliburton missed, that would start TJ McConnell. We saw Bruce Brown pick up the point guard 2 minutes. He would really benefit. Then we see a little bit more of Ben Mathurin, probably Ben Shepherd would be in the rotation again. And yeah, Neesmith would benefit. And again, the matchup is terrible for Obi here. We see these Pacers teams will cut Obi out if they have to worry about wings scoring and they need Aaron Neesmith. So I could see Obi Toppin's minutes getting pretty gross in the spot.
Yep. All right. Charlotte and Toronto on the Charlotte side. of things. We'll talk about the injury report and non-injury report with Charlotte. On the injury report, they're without LaMelo Ball, Cody Martin, Frank Ntilikina. They have questionable tags on Gordon Hayward and PJ Washington, a doubtful tag on Mark Williams, a probable tag on Terry Rozier, and then there was a report that Underdog cited that Miles Bridges was essentially stopped at the border and not let into Canada, and they're trying to potentially get that issue resolved in terms of his availability for tonight. So, I mean, we're talking about all of their starters, all of their main rotation guys are basically on the injury report or in doubt tonight in terms of their availability. What are your expectations for the Charlotte Hornets tonight?
Yeah, let's talk about Miles Bridges first. Obviously, the off-court stuff is a concern. That's kind of why he was denied entry. He tweeted and deleted that he was denied entry into the sixth. And yeah, it sounds like he's not in there yet. And doing a little bit of digging, quote, a waiver of exclusion may be issued, but several weeks are required to potentially receive clearance into the country, and a fee must be paid. So last I checked, getting denied from entry yesterday is more than potentially a few weeks. So I would say he's very unlikely to play today. Gordon Hayward's stomach issue, one of the biggest fake probable tags I've seen of the year when we saw him get that P tag yesterday Saturday and missed. So keep an eye on that. PJ Washington hasn't shown any sign that he's going to be back. And then even a probable tag on Rozier for a sprained thumb. They might just have a horrible – the spread's been jumping here. It's double digits now for this game. They could be missing, like you mentioned, they could be rolling out a Nick Smith, Bryce McGowan's, Nick Mensa, you name it. This lineup could be really, really bad. So, if I don't even know where to start, honestly. Brandon Miller should play a bunch. Leaky Black. I don't even know what to say. Like this, we just don't really. I guess if Miles is out, then. If PJ's out, like there's just so many. If this guy's out, it's way to go. I guess they would just have to start small, which is trouble. So I don't even know where to go. Like they would start JT Thor, I guess.
If you're talking about everybody but Rozier out in that scenario, I think we'd know that Rozier, Miller, Richards, and McGowan's would be starters. I would guess that JT Thor would move into the starting lineup in that situation, and then I would guess that you'd see a bench of Mensa, Black, Bouknight, Nick Smith Jr. Amari Bailey's listed as out with a two-way in G League, and I imagine that it's more likely that those G League tags stick during the day when you're talking about crossing the border. So I think that would be it. That there'd be like a 9-man rotation essentially. We know Clifford is willing to play things tight naturally. The challenge I would also caution against, though, is that we know he's willing to play things tight when there's a wide disparity in talent amongst the players, because that's what it has been throughout this time, right? They have had like 7 good, pretty solid NBA rotation players, and then like 4 or 5 that are not on the fringes. And so things end up being really, really tight. If you got to a situation where it was just Terry Rozier and Brandon Miller and Nick Richards as like rotation staples, and then you get into the JT Thor and the Mensa and those guys, it might be more hot hand, just because there's not as clear of a level of trust and delineation between the options. But this is one to obviously check back in on as we get closer to the lock stats. It's a 7:30 Eastern game tonight. I imagine we'll at least have clarity on Miles Bridges in advance of lock time tonight. But the Q tags on Hayward and PJ Washington, we'll see. Charlotte pretty good about updating things generally, though.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, Toronto side of the equation, they have nothing really significant listed on the injury report. Any notes for Toronto?
Just their defense has been really bad. This month they're 29th in defense. They've been getting picked on with jump shooting in a really, really big way. So, yeah, if the Hornets could field a decent team, I think they have a chance to maybe score some points. Other than that, the change of the starting lineup has kind of dissipated. They've been playing a little bit better. Had a rough game last time, but yeah, should be pretty much good to go here. Shout out to Quinn Snyder for that adjustment. By the way, over the weekend we saw Pascal cook them, and then they went to a big lineup and kind of iced Pascal. Was playing pretty well overall lately.
All right, Detroit and Atlanta on the Detroit side of things. Still without Jalen Duren, no Monty Morris, no Isaiah Stewart, no Jaron Rode, no Stanley Amude. Alec Burks listed as available. We saw James Weissman have a nice game off the bench last time out. What are your expectations for the Pistons in the absence of Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren?
Yeah, not great. Certainly we be expecting them to start Cade, Killian, Boyan, Asar, and it would have to be Marvin Bagley again. I think they would handle those 48 minutes or most of them with Bagley and James Weissman. You mentioned Weissman having a pretty good game overall, but this team's terrible. They've lost. They've lost. They might go for the record. I think the record's 28 straight losses, so they might get there by the end of the year. But yeah, this team's just a complete disaster. I don't even know what to say. But this rotation should be kind of cut down. Pretty big spread here. The Hawks are a little bit banged up, which we'll talk about. But and I should mention Cade's playing better. He shot the ball a lot better on drives. He's at like 53% over his last like 10 games or so. So he's been playing a little bit better, but certainly to no avail with the 2-24 record.
Yeah, and we've seen the minutes variance amongst guys like Killian Hayes and Jaden Ivey be really, really wide. I am interested. This game feels like it could be a little bit more competitive with Atlanta's kind of struggling to put teams away because their defense has been so weak and Atlanta banged up. There could be, minutes upside and ceiling if the game is relatively competitive. We just haven't seen a lot of that from Detroit of late. Okay. Atlanta side of things, questionable tags for Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, and Bogdan Bogdanovic. They are, of course, still without Jalen Johnson and AJ Griffin. Griffin out due to personal reasons. We saw them play the second end of a back-to-back against Cleveland without Capella and without Bogdanovic. You saw Okongwu slide in that starting lineup. They did have DeAndre Hunter in that game, so they were able to play relatively normal starters. And then getting into the back end rotation, Bruno Fernando played backup center, and Patty Mills got into the rotation as well. What are your expectations on how Atlanta looks tonight?
I am the most concerned about Clint Capella. Had an MRI that revealed a bone bruise. He was called day to day. He did go through shoot around, but usually when guys get MRIs, that day-to-day tag, I tend to think that the Q tag is a little closer to doubtful. So I think they would start Onyeka Okongwu at the 5. Bruno Fernando would play behind him. Obviously, one of the best matchups you could ask for against the Bagley Weissman duo. Hunter should be good. This is kind of a precaution to list him with the Q tag, return from his knee/quad tendon issue, and Bogdan as well. Leaning closer, they did send down 2 of their G League wings today. To the Skyhawks, so that's a pretty good indication that they should have their wings ready to go. But Capella, I do have my doubts that he could play.
All right. Minnesota and Miami. On the Minnesota side of things, Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels listed questionable once again. With Minnesota, we've noted for years now, they just tend to list guys questionable for extended periods of time. Is that the case once again here for the Timberwolves?
For Ant, it is. He's been listed with this hip pointer thing. He played through it, looked great, had his second highest usage rate of the season over the weekend. So, yeah, he should be good. There's some off-court stuff around Anthony Edwards about some comments with, I won't even get into it. You could just Google it. But I think he would be good to go. Jaden McDaniels is a new injury. He suffered a sacrum. That's basically your butt. Injury over the weekend that knocked him out. We'll see if he can go. Again, this is not the ankle sprain that he was listed with a questionable tag going into the weekend. So not too clear on that one. But if he didn't play, they would probably go to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who they've been calling upon. But yeah, tough to get a read on these, rough fall injuries. But I think he'd have a chance to play. Just not quite as clear. But again, as long as Ant's off-court stuff doesn't affect him on the court, which it shouldn't, he should be good to go.
Miami Heat injury report. They are without Kyle Lowry tonight. They are listing available, though, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Josh Richardson, and Jamal Cain. So first we've seen of Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero in weeks potentially here. What are your notes for how the Heat's rotation is impacted?
Yeah, big news. They were almost healthy. They don't get Kyle Lowry here. But yeah, I'd expect them to start Josh Richardson at the 1, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, and Bam Adebayo. Again, this ankle thing from Hero, he's been practicing for a little bit, so would expect a little bit of a cap. We saw him playing a ton before he went down, so we have him at 32. So he could be close to full, but he could be managed here. Maybe they bring him off the bench. We know they don't like to run Duncan and Hero together, so I wouldn't be totally shocked if they started Duncan and bring Hero off the bench in a 6-man role. Especially given how they only really have one other true ball handler, and it's not even a great one in Josh Richardson. But again, that's the starting lineup I would expect. Duncan, main guy off the bench. Love to be the backup 5. Certainly a little bit of Highsmith, and Jaime Hawkins' minute ceiling comes down a little bit. Probably still gets in the upper 20s. We know they like to close with him, but curious to see how that shakes out. Bam also returning from this nagging hip injury. He's run into it 3 times now. He's been off for a little bit, so I would expect no minutes limit. We got a little bit of a limit on him just because it's, he's been injured so many times with this thing. So I think we got him also at 32, or actually we got him at 33. But yeah, it should be pretty full. Jimmy's minutes should be unaffected. And Richardson's minutes could certainly get cut down here because they want to play Hawkes, and they have enough handling, especially with Bam. Bam's handling is something to note. So Richardson's minutes could kind of get cut here.
The other thing on the handling side is they've entrusted Jaime Jaquez Jr. to kind of lead and handle as well in the second units of late. And so just another thing that they've developed a skill on a young player in the absence of their main guys. It'll be interesting to see how they divvy up kind of the handling responsibilities as they get healthier here. Okay, let's move to Memphis and Oklahoma City. On the Memphis side, we're still without John Morant from league suspension, although we're getting closer. Bismack Biyombo is doubtful. They're without Steven Adams, Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, Derrick Rose, and Marcus Smart. What are your notes on the Grizzlies tonight?
One more game without Ja, and they need it with Derrick Rose out. So we saw Rose go down with a hamstring strain. He's going to probably miss like weeks, I would say, given hamstrings and given his history and his age. So, but again, last game without Ja, they'll get him back tomorrow. I assume so. Even there were some comments that he might not return on the road, but we'll get to that tomorrow. But yeah, so without Derrick Rose and Ja with one more game, we're going to see a little bit of Jacob Gilyard, and we saw Zaire Williams out of the rotation and then re-enter when Derrick Rose went down. So I think those guys will cover up the guard minutes along with Desmond Bane, who could play a ton here. Obviously, the matchup sucks. OKC's defense has been pretty good, except for offensive rebounding. They've been bad there. So yeah, Gilyard and Bane would be the backcourt. Vince Williams has run away with minutes. Been talking about this for over a week now that he's the guy. I expect him to start probably the rest of the year. He's going to pick up the SGA matchup here, so good luck with that. And then they'll have Jaren Jackson. I would expect Santi Aldama to get the start here with Bismack Biyombo doubtful. We saw a couple games ago they went with Santi and Jaren Jackson in the matchup against Luka. I think that this makes a ton of sense given the way that Luka and SGA have somewhat similar offensive profiles, being the top two in drives over the last 10 games there. So I think that makes a ton of sense. We'll see if Xavier Tillman gets back in the rotation. Taylor Jenkins was asked about Xavier Tillman not playing, and he said it's not health related, and he'll be quote unquote stay ready. Hey, guess what? I guess you should be ready today. So I'd expect him to be in the rotation. Laravia, we'll see if he can hang on. They probably need the body, so I think he's still in there. But they may have to go smaller here. They may need more guards. We'll see maybe John Concha return to the rotation. He's been dead. And David Roddy will be kind of pretty solidified off the bench. It should be pretty solid as he may have to help Vince Williams, who's shown a little bit of foul risk at times. And yeah, he's going to be really, really have the crosshairs on him with the SGA cover.
So your expected starters here, Santi Aldama over Bismack Biyombo? Okay.
Well, Bismack's doubtful, so yeah.
Right. And then, yeah, I just wasn't sure if that was sliding. It could be Roddy. It could be like against OKC, a little bit of a smaller team on the whole.
There was a comment from Jenkins saying they liked him with Santi, with Jaren. I think it just makes a ton of sense. Get a little shooting with Santi. I think I'd be pretty shocked if it wasn't that, honestly.
Okay. And then who do you think starts at point guard?
Gilyard. Just the fact that
he's awfully small, though.
I know. Well, yeah, it might be Conchar too, just to give some size.
Yeah, but I kind of think it might be somebody bigger, just because they're not going to want to have Bane on. They're going to want to hide Bane on like Dort, right? They're not going to want to have Bane covering SGA, so they need somebody defensively to have the SGA assignment. So I think it's going to be someone with size, and then you can play Gilyard in the second unit against like Cason Wallace, who's much bigger than Gilyard still, but not as big of a threat to like really take advantage of that size. Gilyard is like noticeably small when he's on the court in an NBA game. And I just don't think he can play meaningful minutes because of the size. He gets picked on too much.
Yeah, and that makes sense because they have enough handling with we saw Jaren Jackson pick up some handling in the Baneless game, and then obviously Bane handles even a ton with Derrick Rose in there. So that probably makes some sense just from a defensive standpoint.
Okay, on the Oklahoma City side, they're fully healthy. Keontae Johnson, the only thing listed on the injury report, as out. What are your notes on the Thunder?
No, we can move on. Got 21 other teams to talk about today.
All right. Brooklyn and Utah. On the Brooklyn side of things, Dorian Finney-Smith is questionable here. They're still without Dennis Smith Jr., Lonnie Walker, and Ben Simmons. What are your notes on Dorian Finney-Smith with the left knee soreness?
Yeah, we saw him miss the last game. He said he is going to play today, so I would expect him to come off the bench. They've been kind of riding with this double cam, Mikal, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Nick Claxton. We've seen Nick Claxton's minutes come up a little bit. He's hit 33 in 2 of his last 3 games. Certainly Royce O'Neal, Day'Ron Sharpe will probably play a decent bit here. We see him kind of get shuffled in and out. We see them go away from him in small ball lineups, but I would expect them to use it a little bit more here. That's pretty much it. We'll see Trendon Watford play a little bit, but Dorian Finney-Smith coming back would take him out. So should be pretty tightish. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Obviously, the matchup is quite good. Utah last in pick and roll handler per possession stats. They're last in transition defense allowed per game per points allowed. So should be a pretty good spot here for the Nets to put up some points.
Yeah, this was playoff level rotation last game against Golden State. And Brooklyn's played really competitive this year. They're actually the best team in the league against the spread. So would expect, potentially really tight rotation once again, although do you think the matchup is better suited for making sure that Day'Ron Sharpe gets up to that like 15, 16-minute mark against Utah. On the Utah side of things, their injury report is full once again, still without Jordan Clarkson, without Keontae George. John Collins is listed questionable with illness once again. Omer Yurtseven listed questionable with illness. Lucas Samanic listed questionable with illness. So something is going around the Jazz. What are your notes on the Jazz?
Omer Yurtseven downgraded to out now, so they won't have him. So I would expect Kelly Olynyk to probably start. We've been playing this is Walker Kessler going to start or not game for like way too long here. But I think they like Olynyk. They like to funnel offense through him as well. They certainly need the ball handling without Clarkson, without Keontae George. So I think that makes a ton of sense. So I'd expect them to start Chris Dunn at the point guard, Colin Sexton at the 2. Laurie, John Collins has been out since the 8th. He's been out forever with this illness tag. He got it worse than I did. I think he probably has COVID given how long he's been out, right? But anyways.
Maybe. Wouldn't they list it though? I mean, I guess maybe it's a HIPAA violation, but they list other teams list guys with non-COVID illness. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they kind of changed that listing. I've been kind of looking at that. They've been going kind of NA illness.
Yeah.
But some guys, I don't know if I haven't been paying too
much. Like Dallas has a non-COVID illness for Rashawn Holmes on the injury report today. So I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, it's just I don't know if it's like team specific or whatever. Yeah. But anyways, so if he's in, he would start. If he doesn't start, it would be probably Simone Fontecchio. They've been playing Taylor Hendricks. I think Hendricks is locked in regardless, so they would fit him in however they can. Taylor Horn-Tucker in there regardless. Oshek Baji probably in there regardless. And then Sexton's been playing great. He's been playing off ball a bit more. They've been playing him more on the wing. The handling role's been pretty small, but really strong usage rate and pretty good shot opportunities for him in a matchup that's not terrible. They've been putting a lot of Spencer Dinwiddie on a lot of wings, so I think that would probably be the matchup. They'd probably have to put Mikal and Dorian Finney-Smith on Laurie. I should mention Laurie's been capped, returning from a hamstring. Got a little bit of a cap on him, nothing crazy. That's pretty much. I think that mostly covers it.
Yeah, they're running an awful lot of offense through Kelly Olynyk of late instead of kind of the guards. And so we've seen that point guard spot generate a lot of potential assists during the course of the season. And to be fair to Chris Dunn, he has had a good handle the last few games, but it's really spiked up for Kelly Olynyk in a big way. I'm interested to see if that changes with Larry Markkinen back a little bit more, because just generally, and it obviously didn't change in this game against Sacramento, but just generally it's easier to have a big facilitator when you're playing kind of like a low post big as well. So you're pulling one big out. Otherwise you just have everybody kind of spread out and it's a little bit more difficult, but 13 assists last game for Kelly O. All right, let's move to Dallas and Denver. On the Dallas side, as I mentioned, Rashawn Holmes, questionable non-COVID illness. They're without Josh Green, Kyrie Irving, Maxi Kleber, and Derek Lively. So very thin in the front court in a matchup against the Nuggets. That's not what you want to go into the game with. So what are your notes on the Mavericks?
Yeah, not great. Booted for Derek Lively. Looks like he's going to miss multiple games. So, yeah, we're probably going to see Rashawn Holmes. Again, questionable tag, so we don't know. We saw Rashawn Holmes got the start about a week and a half ago, played 21.3 minutes, probably a similar outcome. And we saw earlier this year was actually Grant Williams who picked up the Jokic matchup. We know that they trust him with post defense, so I would expect that matchup to stick there. But again, you need the size. Denver is just massive, so you can't play like Grant at the 5 and then a bunch of wings. You're just gonna get killed on the board. So I would expect Rashawn Holmes to start. If Holmes can't go, they almost have to start Dwight Powell, and then they're gonna have to piece it together. We'll see some Markieff Morris. We'll see a little bit of Omax Prosper maybe if they're really shorthanded. But the backcourt's pretty straightforward. We're going to certainly see Luka Doncic, Dante Exum, and Derek Jones Jr. start 1 through 3. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. is just playing a ton here. They sub him in the first, and they basically don't let him out until the end of the half. Same with third quarter, obviously. So, yeah, should be pretty tight in the backcourt. Certainly, Tim Hardaway Jr. could be viable. Luka will see a lot of Aaron Gordon, KCP if he can go. Talk about him in a second. But, yeah, I think Richaun Holmes could certainly be in play if he does get the start and he is okay to play.
Denver side of things, Jamal Murray listed probable here, as well as Aaron Gordon. They've got a questionable tag on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's in concussion protocol. What are your notes on the Nuggets?
Yeah, we saw KCP suffer this injury a few games ago and returned, which is a surprise. But yeah, pretty straightforward. If he can't go, they'll be going to Justin Holiday. Aaron Gordon is getting this P tag, pretty consistent, and then Jamal Murray also P tag. Been capped here. Both ankles have been sprained. He's had that hamstring from last month, so minutes cap on him, and then we'll see if Aaron Gordon can avoid foul trouble.
All right, on to Washington and Sacramento. Washington on the second night of back-to-back, they have not filed yet. Any notes or reasons for concern or things to watch for a Washington filing, which I imagine will happen within the next hour?
Yeah, I think the guy I'm watching the most is Jordan Poole. We've seen him get this Q tag for this left ankle thing that's been dating back for about a month now. Also had a slip yesterday on a wet spot. It looked like he was okay, but I wouldn't be surprised if he pops up on the injury report here. Oh, there's another illness tag. We are getting a ton of those. Killing Hayes illness now. I think they're going to be good to go. So it should be Tyus, whose minutes have kind of surged again. Poole, Gafford, Denny Avdia, Kyle Kuzma, bench being Bilal Coulibaly, Corey Kispert, and Danilo Gallinari covering most of that stuff.
Yeah, they ran really tight rotation last night, so I am skeptical of what we see pop up on the injury report today. You saw Tyus Jones get up to 39 minutes, Daniel Gafford 35 minutes. The matchup today against Sacramento is a good one from a pace perspective, and would require those two players from a defensive perspective as well, just some size against the bonus. And then also Tyus Jones is probably their best guard defender on the team against De'Aaron Fox, which we'll talk about in a second. So interesting to see what comes up on the injury report for Washington. All right, on the Sacramento side of things, De'Aaron Fox, questionable underdog reporting that he was present at shoot-around today. That's the big tag over on the Kings side. What are your notes on De'Aaron Fox?
Yeah, it looks like he's going to have a pretty good chance to go. Shoulder irritation. He did look like either the Kings posted an old picture or it looked like he went through some practice yesterday with the starter's jersey on. So pretty much every indication is he's going to be able to give it a go. Obviously, the matchup is so good. Two of the fastest offenses in the NBA. We know the Wizards are dead last in defense, so certainly a good spot. Keegan Murray had a just dynamite game, 26 third quarter points, franchise record, 12 threes. Unbelievable game for him for 47 points. Didn't even need to play late, so denied a 50 ball. He would obviously benefit. And Sabonis, man, if Fox can't go, even if Fox is limited, just the nuttiest of nut matchups here. We know that the Wizards are killed around the basket. They're one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the NBA. So he would be just, oh my God, easy target here.
Yeah, Keegan was awesome in that game. They were hunting the chance of 50, and then he kind of refused to take a bad shot, which I thought was kind of interesting, because they were trying to get him shots, and he is like in his offense is in the Klay Thompson mold, with the exception of like Klay will at times just fire a bad shot, kind of regardless. There's no bad shot in Klay Thompson's mind, but Keegan, they were hedging out on all the screens and everything, just trying to avoid giving up 50 at the end of the game, and he just kind of refused to shoot towards the end. All right, Knicks and the Lakers. On the Knicks side of things, no Mitchell Robinson once again. Going to be that way for a while. Nothing else on the injury report, but should note the Knicks, from a defensive standpoint, since Mitchell Robinson has gone down, have been atrocious. So what are your notes on the Knicks tonight?
Yeah, they went from don't play against these guys inside to play against these guys inside. They're getting killed inside. You mentioned their defense is getting absolutely smashed on. One of the worst defenses in the NBA over the last 6 games. So do they pull Sims out? I mean, I don't know. I feel like that they've got to do it. Regardless, we're going to see a lot of Isaiah Hartenstein, and they would need it. You need the size here. So, regardless, I think Hartenstein, the matchup's terrible, but from a minute standpoint, I could see him playing a pretty good bit. You're going to need a really strong game out of Jalen Brunson. Tough matchup for Julius Randle, who's playing really, really well lately. And then we'll see RJ Barrett, Tati DiVincenzo, finish out the starting lineup there. But yeah, we'll see if Jericho Sims could keep going here. It feels like he's got to be almost done just with how poorly they've been playing defensively.
Yeah, and Tibbs, they go out, they sign Taj Gibson. Little bit of a hey, we're not comfortable with what's happening here in the front court. All right, Lakers side, full injury report here as well. We'll start with the questionable tags: Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Christian Wood. Christian Wood is the non-COVID illness variety. Probable tag for D'Angelo Russell, non-COVID illness variety. Jared Vanderbilt, low back spasm. Available tag for Rui Hachimura, still without Gabe Vincent. What are your expectations on the Lakers, who got wrecked without Anthony Davis? LeBron's had an amazing year and all, but we saw one game without Anthony Davis for the Lakers, and we saw one game without LeBron James without the Lakers, and they looked very, very different in those two games. What are your notes on the Lakers tonight?
Yeah, we saw it looked like it was management. We saw LeBron miss the one game and then AD missed the other, as you mentioned. I think they're good to go. LeBron's been listed with this calf contusion that's pretty fake, so keep an eye on that. We mentioned AD was a little bit concerning. At least that was when Fan was talking and he got fined. But yeah, I think he's got a decent chance. It's teeny chance to miss here. We won't treat it like a fake Q because he got hurt like 2 times last week. So I'm pretty sure he's going to go. He's been off since Wednesday. They play him full minutes, so pretty sure he's going to play. But just don't completely ignore that. Starting lineup should certainly be D'Angelo back into the first unit. They'll continue to start Cam Reddish, Taurean Prince, LeBron, and should be AD. We'll see Rui Hachimura's minutes come way down. Wood may not even play regardless. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. But expecting AD and LeBron and D'Lo to all play.
Yeah, and hopefully with AD that he does. Hopefully he's able to continue to stay healthy. It's been kind of one of the underlying stories this season for a guy who has been given all sorts of crap by national media members about his ability to stay on the floor. He's played through stuff this season, and he's played a lot, and he's a big reason why the Lakers are where they are, including the in-season tournament champs. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, if you enjoy the content that we are putting out here, please subscribe to our channel and get notifications whenever you go live. We have a goal of getting to 5,000 subscribers on the channel by the end of the NBA season, so we would appreciate your support in trying to achieve that goal. If you're interested in our paid content behind the paywall, you can find us going live at 5 o'clock Eastern, myself and Gary Hartman breaking down the slate, the good chalk, the bad chalk, the contrarian plays, all the DFS information you need to help set your lineups. And if you're interested in any of the packaging or information that we have from a premium standpoint, you can go to establishedrun.com/subscribe-NBA for more details. If you are wanting to get more of this free content in your feeds, make sure to smash that like button. You help feed the algorithm. It helps feed our families. It allows us to feed you this free NBA injury information analysis each and every day, Monday through Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern. So make sure to smash that like button, feed the algorithm. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.